Should kick live now, and just want to say what's up to Facebook world out there. Appreciate you guys joining us on our weekly Facebook Live Thursday, $1,000 or $10,000 Thursday. Have it as you will, hustle as hard as you want to. Joining us today is Doc Rannigan, the Honorable Casey Ashmore, and Dr. Jill Bennett here. As you guys know, every week when we kick this off, we choose a RVBA member and we do a highlight spot. So this week we are talking about J-Dog Junk Removal. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran. And through our conversations of getting to know Jill before we got started, she actually just used J-Dog. So can you give us a little bit of your input on that business?
Yeah, they came a whole bunch of stuff off my property. Some of it I didn't think was physically capable of removing it, like cement that goes deep. They spent hours and hours digging to get rid of all the stuff I wanted gone. They really probably should have charged me a lot more than they did, but they did an amazing job. And I'd recommend them to anyone that needs that service.
Awesome. And how do you feel about the overall process and experience with that business?
It was really a great experience from start to finish. They were very responsive. They did everything they said they were going to do. They showed up when they were supposed to. So it was a great service that they provided from start to finish.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. I'm just trying to tag him in this business right now. There's a couple of them. We're trying to get the right one here. So with that being said, we'll put his information in there. So you contractors, home remodeler guys, Doc, if you need people to haul trash, appliances, repairs, whatever, or not repairs, but things away from your job sites, this is the man to call. He can do it. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the Honorable Casey Ashmore to lead us in this discussion tonight.
I know you like busting my chops, calling me the Honorable.
It fits you.
So it's my distinct privilege to introduce Dr. Jill Bennett, who is a mental health care provider in Rockwall County, Texas, but she has been serving North Texas for almost 20 years, if memory serves. And we're very lucky to have her here tonight as we go on with our superhero themed month of July business discussions, but also we want to thank her for her service to our nation in the United States Army and in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Bennett. Thank you.
Hi, I want to give a little bit of history about myself and my business experience. I have been working in mental health for, I guess, 20 years, which seems like a really long time. But before that, I was in the Army. And when I left the service, I really had a heart for helping service members. And so I done work at the VA, providing trauma counseling to veterans, and now I'm in private practice. I also offer equine therapy services, and I have a program. It's called Hoofbeats of Hope, and part of that is a special program called Hoofbeats for Heroes, and it's open to service members, first responders, and we have a special program for them. So I guess going through starting my own business and then starting another business, I know, personally familiar with a lot of the ups and downs that go along with that. And I wanted to talk today about the basic emotions that we all experience from time to time, and those that are typical in the ups and downs of the business world, and how we can deal with those to use them to our advantage and not allow them to get us off track in our decision making and moving forward in our business. We all obviously we have emotions for reasons, and they help guide us. But our emotions come originally from our belief system. So depending on what your belief system is, that's going to be the foundation for kind of your perspective on things. And from our belief system, that's where our thoughts come from, like how we interpret things, how we think about ourselves, other people, the world. And so our beliefs drive our thoughts. Now, so our thoughts actually drive our emotions. So our beliefs and our thoughts that we're telling ourselves a lot of times unconsciously is what's going to drive our emotions. And so our emotions drive our behavior. A lot of times emotions aren't a great gauge for making decisions. So in order to change any emotions or behaviors that are like not productive for you, you have to go back and identify like the thoughts that are driving them. So I just want to kind of give a big picture. And I've put together a superhero themed guide for what we learned, what we learned from superheroes in our businesses. And so I kind of wanted to walk through that and integrate, how the emotions, have played into like their missions and how they play into ours.
What shirt is that you have on over there?
Oh, sorry, I have.
Yeah, look at that. She dressed for the occasion.
I just need a fan going in front of me. So.
Love it.
Okay. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Wonder Woman. I know those of us that are veterans can probably really relate to her. But she lived in the Amazon. She lived in isolation, and she learned about conflict going on in the outside world. And so she was driven to help defend and fight for people that couldn't fight for themselves. And so she left the Amazon, and she joined the fight. She joined in on the war that was going on outside. And so she was driven by love and compassion for other people. And she went through a lot of adversity. She actually lost the love of her life, for those of you who are familiar with the story. And even though she went through grief and loss and kind of lost her drive for a brief period, she went on to continue fighting to protect the world, even after she'd lost the love of her life. And so she had a theory like that it's not about like what you deserve in life, but it's about what you believe that drives you. And so for her, she went through a whole range of emotions that she was motivated to help others. She was altruistic. She had great intentions, but she experienced like some of the traumas that go along with fighting a war. And she dealt with loss and grief in her personal life, and she didn't let that affect her or derail her from her mission.
Hey, can I ask you something, Jill?
Sure.
So you had mentioned love and compassion, and in business, we believe that whatever business you're in, you better love it and you better be compassionate about that industry that you're in. Now, me personally, I have a huge heart and I'm very compassionate. And oftentimes in business, that kind of has a double-edged sword, right? Because we want to believe everybody is good. We want to believe that all of our clients are going to treat us the best way so that I can treat them the best way.
Right.
And sometimes, not all the times, that love and compassion can actually skew our vision, right? At least it can mine, because I'm so apt to make somebody happy that I sacrifice money, right, to make them happy, or I'll sacrifice my time, like I'll give them even extra time to make something happen. So when we're dealing in business and we're one of those types of personalities that just kind of loves, it's kind of like the Wonder Woman hero. Is there anything you could suggest that help us to keep that in check so that we don't get too far gone and lose ourselves in the love and compassion of our business, and try to stay focused on what the main reason we got into business for, which is to create success and make money?
Right. So that the foundation for me of what we do is why we do it, like what our why is. And I think for most of us, our number one or two why is to be able to provide for our families, and to be able to physically support yourself. And so it took me trial and error, and I'm sure it does for a lot of other people. I'm all heart. That's kind of what I do. And I have found that I really have to balance that, because I can't do too much pro bono work. I can't give away too many free services. And that's really a struggle for a lot of people, because when you see someone in need and you really want to help them, but they can't afford to pay you, you have to pick and choose kind of how you're going to decide who you're willing to help at maybe a loss or not a profit, but really limiting that so that you actually meet your mission of being able to support yourself and make money.
It's a fine line.
Yes.
It's definitely a tough roller coaster when you're so overly with that emotion, where you lead with the heart, right? Because I know there's other people that lead with just that greed mentality, where they're money driven individuals, where I'm relationship driven, and that's where my compassion comes in. I want to be able to create that relationship to increase longevity with the clients. And it's so easily as business owners to get lost. Like you said, you can only do so much pro bono. You can only give so much until you're like, shit, my lights are about to get turned off.
Right. I like
now I'm going to get angry, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm upset because now I'm feeling taken advantage of.
Well, ideally in business, you want to try to make decisions without emotion. You read books and you talk to successful people, and it's always easier said than done. But trying to make a business decision without emotion is way more difficult if you're a business owner. Those who just come to work and work the 9 to 5, they can make decisions all day. There's no ramifications to it. But as a business owner, which I'd say a good majority of the RVBA members and the people that watch and engage in this, making that decision without emotion, it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, and I want to touch on a couple things you said, Doc, because and Dr. Bennett, not Doc Rannigan, but
I was like, wait, what?
I'm a fake doc.
So look, I'm going to tell you something. Like one of my favorite client that I had just an absolute honor to represent was a 21-year Army veteran. She was an Army investigator, and then a homicide squad investigator for like 18 of those years. And so she went through some stuff, and she was one of the first people I ever met who was doing equestrian therapy. The North Texas Veterans Court in Kaufman County has a equestrian therapy program down in Kaufman County, Texas. And I'm just a huge supporter of that, because I've seen it make such an impact and you don't have to be a veteran for it to have an impact. I've seen it work with teenagers. I've seen it work with adults, but I've seen it in particular work with veterans who suffer from PTSD. So I love that you do that. And then I'm going to give some special props to Wonder Woman as a topic, because, Skinner and I, we tried to come up with, just some broad strokes, but, Wonder Woman's a great topic. My colleague, Amy Conine, loves Wonder Woman. She's got Wonder Woman stuff all over the office, has a Wonder Woman cup, has a Wonder Woman tattoo, and is just a huge believer in that message of leaving paradise to serve others, making sacrifices and encountering loss and overcoming that to stay on mission. And, my sister and Amy love Wonder Woman for that same exact reason. So I think it's just a very poignant thing, because that happens in anyone's life. There's going to be some tragedy along your journey, and you've got to figure out a way to overcome it, to deal with that loss so that you can stay on mission. I love that message.
Well, I mean, with that being said, that it's part and parcel with the emotions of all of these different emotions, right? So, Jill, I guess continue along, because you were discussing some of the ways that Wonder Woman kind of incorporated into those emotions. So carry on, please.
Well, I think one of the things about her that I really, kind of love about her is that she had altruistic purposes for what she was doing. and she paid very dearly for what her, what she felt was the right thing for her to do. And so she suffered immensely, and she went through loss, and she didn't allow all those negative emotions, she didn't get stuck there, to stop her from moving forward and continuing on with her mission. And so, like, I know going through business, like experiences in business, there's times when, you get betrayed, you get taken advantage of. There's, a lot of times businesses don't make a profit in their first initial years. And so when you get discouraged or down and you like see you're kind of going backwards sometimes instead of forward, or that's what it feels like, the difference between like the success in business is how you're going to handle that, how you're going to bounce back from that, and what you choose to focus on. So, and that leads me into Superman. And one of the lessons we got from Superman was to overcome adversity and not give up. If you remember, Superman was blinded by a chemical spill, and so he was disabled. And instead of feeling sorry for himself, he actually he rallied and he found a purpose for himself. And he actually learned to use, like, even though he had the disability of he didn't have sight, he had heightened senses. All of his other senses were heightened. And so he found like the strength that came from that and the gifts that came from that. And he just took those and ran with them. And he had good intentions, to save the world. So even with like our businesses, there's things that happen that kind of can take us out at the knees sometimes. I know, like for me, I've had difficulties with business managers in the past, not being forthcoming and, having the numbers be way off. And, when you look at the black and white, at, the balance, it's sometimes easy to go like, okay, this person ruined my business. There's, you know what I mean? I just have to find something new. But when you look at those experiences, if you can take what you've learned from them and you can get excited about opportunities instead of spending your time reliving the emotions or reliving the experiences that were negative, that I think you can project forward. And that part of it is based on, are we going to focus on the negative? Or are we going to focus on the positive? Are we looking forward or backwards?
Yeah, you're talking about like the emotion of surprise, really, when something catches you off guard, surprises you, right? That's kind of something that when it's unexpected, whether it's positive or negative, you got to find a way to, it really changes your perspective, right? When a surprise takes place, whether that's a good or a bad thing, that ideally you want to take a step back and you want to change your perspective and adapt to that new situation. Doc, you deal with this on a consistent basis, I would assume, right? You're ripping the roof off and you're like, surprise, this ain't what I thought it was, right?
Yeah, we're dealing with that, right? We dealt with that this week. So no kidding. This man's fireplace was about to fall through his roof.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm like, yeah, man, we can get you buttoned up. We can get you squared away. It's going to be X amount of dollars. And we remove all the brick. We tear off all the boards that are around the frame of the fireplace. And then when we get down to the nitty gritty, it's totally rotten. And I didn't anticipate that. And so I had to go back to the homeowner and I actually brought him up onto the roof and I showed him because we had a cool little scaffold, so it was safe. I said, hey man, I know I quoted you this, but because of these unforeseen things, like it's another $2,500. And this dude, I'm glad we were on a roof because he flipped his wig on me. He's like, what? How come you didn't tell me this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but so there was something he was hiding at the same token. And I finally pulled it out of him that he had been letting this problem go on for 15 years. 15 years.
Where was that?
Right.
Where
So
was that discussion?
where's the accountability held with them? And so when Jill mentioned, are we going to focus on the negativity or are we going to focus on the positive? And that's what I had to do with him. I had to redirect his anger from being negative to positive and showing him relief.
Yeah, change his perspective.
Right, because all he saw was this huge mess, this huge
Right.
mountain of money coming up, him not knowing where to get this extra money. And so I just took a moment and I said, Steve, it's not as bad as you think. I said, what is bad is if you would have waited any longer, your fireplace would have came into your living room. And now you want to talk about money, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever we have the capabilities in business to be able to convert that negative issue into a positive solution, that can kind of make us a hero. And him, her referencing Superman, he could have been that guy, pour me a drink, and he could have been the drunken Superman. And what's that guy Will Smith played? I don't know. I digress. But anyways, the superhero was a drunk. So we have that capabilities to deal with our clients and be able to recognize our clients' emotions. It's just as important that we as business owners are able to recognize our clients' emotions to be able to steer their emotions back into the emotions that we can control.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that
That's
up.
kind of what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Superman analogy is right on. It's Superman was my dad's favorite superhero, and so I grew up loving Superman. But when you're talking about the things that hero goes through, and a lot of it is, especially in these latest iterations of that storyline, there's a lot of negativity to him about being this, beyond this extraterrestrial being who has powers that are beyond anything that can be controlled. And how do we deal with that? And it's a lot of negativity focused at him, which is kind of like those business challenges that both you and Doc Ranigan and Dr. Bennett were talking about. When you have things that sideline you, when you have an employee that is out of control, that is hurting your business, or you have a client who has covered up a significant fact in the relationship that you have engaged, like I'm going to contract with Doc Ranigan to fix my roof, and then we discover the fireplace is falling apart, and this individual may have known about it for more than a decade.
That's
and how do you turn that situation from you're getting barked at on a scaffold, or you've just uncovered fraud in your own business office, to something positive? How do you stay on mission? So it's back to both Wonder Woman and Superman, but overcoming that adversity, that negative emotion, and dealing with that in a positive way. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're in any business, but in particular my business, you got to learn how to deal with hate, because everybody hates you. Okay, the judge hates you.
Everybody.
He don't want to hear your shit.
Till they need you.
Lawyer really hates you.
Till
They
they
don't.
need you.
Your client hates you because you're billing them too much. The other lawyer's client really hates you because you're against them. Your dog hates you because you're at the courthouse and not home walking your dog. I mean, you got to deal with hate.
Is this a pity party? Is that what you're trying to?
You got to really have that Superman mentality. You got to have that super mentality. You got to know that you're doing it for a higher mission, and that you're going to overcome all that adversity. And I've seen. I think our profession is right behind doctors and dentists, and Dr. Bennett can probably confirm this, with the highest amount of suicides, alcoholism, and depression, and drug abuse. And any profession is stressful, but if you don't have that superhero mentality in your profession, it can lead down those dark roads, no matter what you're doing. And that's why it's critical to have that ability to step back, talk to that client on that scaffold, or whatever that scenario may be. You've discovered that fraud in your office and you're going to correct it. You've got to overcome that adversity and get your mindset back to a place of positivity. Otherwise, you're going to go down those dark paths.
I tell you what, the only time we are able to get those is by dealing with it at one point in time and another. I've been doing business for 10 years, and when something first negative happened to me for the very first time, I promise you, I did not handle it the right way. I was looking for somebody else to blame. It wasn't my fault. It was the client's fault. It was their fault. It was what everybody else's fault. And I learned that's the wrong way to deal with it. At the end of the day, I had to take ownership of the
Absolutely.
entire process and
Yeah.
figure out how to make corrective actions. And so that's what I really think about, how we understand our emotions, right? Do we let our emotions drive us, or do we drive our emotions?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm sure Jill has. You got another superhero character for us?
Yeah, of course. The next business lesson learned that I have that learned from superheroes is from Green Lantern.
Okay.
I didn't know a lot about him until I started, looking into this topic. But he taught us that we only have a certain amount of time, energy, and willpower. And so I don't know if anyone knows his storyline, but his dad was a test pilot for the Air Force, and he watched his father die in front of him at an air show. And even though, no one around him wanted him to follow in his dad's footsteps, he decided that's what he was going to do. And so he was driven by his love for his dad, his respect for his dad, but also his father's mission. And he was powered by, his powers were powered by willpower. But we have a finite amount of that. So in his line of work in Galactic, he was basically a galactic police officer, and his magical ring was powered by willpower. You have to prioritize because, it's real easy to get spread thin in business. And I think it's also really easy to sometimes get caught in the weeds and focus on something that's not, foundational or key, to whether you succeed or fail. So I think he taught us that we have to prioritize. We have to look at, our mission, and we have to keep going back to our mission to keep us on track.
I love that. And I'd like to spend a few minutes on that because I'm going to actually upload the PDF that we made here to the comments because it has a lot of great information on it. But you're saying the same thing that Casey texted us. Maybe it was yesterday, talking about trim the fat for the tasks in your business that don't make you successful, right? Casey, touch on that, man, because you guys are talking the same language right now, and that's really powerful.
So, you're absolutely right. Willpower is I think that's everything. I hear, I represent people occasionally charged with some serious crimes. And, I feel sorriest for the ones who can't beat drugs and alcohol, but it's always, I just can't beat this. I need to do the 10 years because I can't, if I'm not inside, I'll use drugs. And, it's sad that lack of willpower is there in their life. It's just dominating them, and that they can't get their, they just can't get their head in the right place to be able to adapt, to be able to overcome, like Green Lantern. I do know a little bit about it. I'm going to nerd out a little bit. My mom's favorite superhero was Green Lantern of all superheroes. He's kind of obscure, but you're right. He is this cosmic policeman, and he travels around kind of like Captain Marvel in the recent Marvel reiteration of that, which was pretty fantastic. It's a job where you're righting the wrongs that are happening to the weaker, the oppressed, the bullies. You're straightening them out. And, things that I was texting Jeff about and Doc about was,
you said create a list of things you're going to stop doing because they're not efficient and eliminate them.
Yeah.
That goes back to what Jill was saying about prioritizing.
Yeah. So when you're looking at things that you can do in your business, and one of them is going to be, dealing with people that are draining your resources. Everybody loves those efforts that are little paychecks to your heart, the pro bono the low bono things that you do to serve and better your community. But then there's other things that you're doing that you need to make a list of things you're going to stop doing because they're inefficient, they're not profitable, and and alternatively they're draining your resources, right? And if you can't maintain your willpower because you're being drained too much from this other activity, you got to have the courage to cut it loose from your business.
Quick question about willpower, right? So we all have it, or else we wouldn't have gotten on into business for ourselves. We wouldn't have chosen the lifestyles that we live today. But it's exhausting, right? To maintain a certain amount of willpower becomes exhausting, and it can give you a headache, really. So what are some things that you could recommend to help us re-energize our willpower? And I've been reading here in some of the comments, Rick Burness says, get your vision board out, right? What are some of the, and that's what I use. I use a vision board. And whenever I'm unfocused and I kind of doubt myself and I say, well, where am I headed in life? What's my reasoning? I can read that vision board and I say, I got it. And so I'm able to utilize my vision board in the books that I read, being a part of this RVBA, to re-energize my willpower.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you guys use? Because it's got to be draining in a court where you spend hours and hours and hours and you lose a case.
Jill probably has some good response to that, I bet.
Yeah. So one of the most important things for like maintaining your willpower, maintaining kind of your own mental health is self-care. And so when you recognize that you're struggling or you're not as motivated about your goals as you once were, most of the time there's something that you're not doing to take care of yourself. And so if your self-care is going down, and you're going to get burned out and your motivation is going to get lower and lower. And the sooner that you recognize that sort of lack of willpower, lack of motivation, and start looking at what you need to do for you to get you healthy mentally and emotionally and get back on track, I think that's key. And I think in business, like a lot of times in business, it's like a make it or break it thing. So when you start out, if you don't have that business prioritized, it's not going to succeed. But sometimes other things that are important to us have to take a back seat. And, sometimes that's relationships. Sometimes that's hobbies. Sometimes that's taking care of ourselves.
And that I think prioritizing that stuff can build anticipation, right? You're anxious, your anxiety's up, and and anticipation is the tool that tells you you're stepping out of your comfort zone. When you're anxious, when you're like on edge, really, if you stop and think about it, that means you're not in a comfort bubble, right? And
right.
If anybody has heard me say this before, I think real change takes place in uncomfortable situations. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. I love it.
Jill, when you kept on self-care, or what are we diving into there? Are we talking about eating right, living right? Are we
right here, baby? Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you get those, Jeff? I'm gonna need you to put them away, okay?
Put them back.
Let's put those back.
Base level of self-care is making sure that you're getting enough sleep. It's making sure that you're fueling your body.
Yeah.
Not putting stuff in your body that's gonna hold you back, drain your energy, drag you down. Like getting exercise. If I quit running long enough, I start to go into like a coma-like state, I think. When you start to lose that like physical edge, it also affects you mentally and emotionally. It's very easy to get discouraged, get burned out, and lose sight of your vision. So Green Lantern, in case you didn't know, he had a great ability. One of his powers, he had a great ability to overcome fear. And so fear, we have fear for a reason. It's like a check engine light.
Yeah.
Right. And when we feel fear, it's a warning. When you identify where that fear is coming from, that's when you have to identify, am I feeling this way to protect me? Do I need to do this or not do this? Or am I feeling this fear because of something I've experienced in the past, or something that, is coming from someone or something external? And so to deal with the anxiety, the anticipation, the fear of failure, is to be able to, catch yourself having that emotion and then be able to look at it logically.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, you have to make good decisions. You can't act on emotion in the moment, or you're probably not making the best decisions for your business or for your life.
Love it. Yeah. Fear is one of those things also that pushes us to challenge ourselves as well.
Mhm.
Doc is always challenging me when I call him about this, that, or the other. He's saying, where are you stepping out? How are you pushing yourself? Casey does the same thing. When you think about fear in your business, I think Dr. Jill here said it best. Take an inventory. Is it a fear because you're scared to step out on the ledge, or is it fear because of a safety issue, right?
Right. Couple things that y'all have commented on. I'm going to touch on them. The re-energization of your willpower. The Green Lantern had a ring, and he held it up to the lantern, and that fueled him. And that is an analogy for the things that you must do for self-care to fuel yourself. And I completely agree with, I will tell you, Doc, 6 months ago, I broke my back, and my doctor said I will probably never run again, but I miss running every day. But I'm walking 13 miles a week right now, 2.2 miles every day, 6 days a week, whatever. And I'm going to the gym, and I'm doing everything I can do to make sure that because I need that. One, because otherwise I'll be, a blimp, and two, because I like to eat, y'all. I like me some Wells Burger. It's 1 block away. I like to eat. But the other thing is that, you will lose your cotton picking mind. You get up every morning at 4:00 in the morning, you write down your goals, you make a coffee, you start your day. My son is just like me. I get up at 4:30. He gets up at 5:30. When I was his age, I got up at 5:30. I mean, he's going to be a great drill instructor, but you've got to get after it. But how do you do that, 6 days a week? And, one, Doc, I just want you to know I never lose at the courthouse. You either win or you learn.
There you go. Love it.
The courthouse.
No losing.
Right? The judge didn't get it right, and you had to learn a lesson. Maybe the Court of Appeals didn't get it right, and you had to learn a lesson, but you never lose. No, but seriously, that is,
Love it.
You want to talk about a deflating moment? What the jury giveth, the Court of Appeals taketh away. I mean, you want to talk about getting kicked where it counts? That is a low moment. And so how do you deal with that? Well, self-care, absolutely. And then I think another thing is you got to set and attain achievable goals. Whether that is, Doc said I can't run probably for the rest of my life. I shouldn't do it because it'll stress the back, blah, blah, blah. So what can I do? Well, I can swim, and I can lift some weights, and I can get on a elliptical, and I can get on a Stairmaster. And, I can do a lot of other things. And then you just start making those, so it's 30 minutes on the stair climber. Or back in the day, you could go to the stadium. They're not letting anybody do that right now. But, those kinds of things. So 30 minutes one week, the next week 35, the next week 40. But you got to make those little achievable milestones, whatever those are. And that can be $1,000 Thursday, which then turns into $10,000 Thursday. But again, it's just small achievements that build into bigger achievements. And that's how you can help overcome. Now, fear, I think, is one of the most dangerous emotions, especially in business, because it can freeze people into stagnation.
Yeah.
And one concern I have about fear is, if you're afraid to go forward, that means you're sitting still, which means you're going backwards. And when you're at sea, if you're not moving, you're adrift. And when you're adrift, you're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be, usually at the bottom of the ocean, right? You're going to end up on some shoals. You're going to get a hole in your boat. You're going to be in a problem. So you do have to, and I love what you said, Doc, about capturing that feeling, letting it have its moment, and then looking at it logically. So you can make some moves, right? You're going to get your chart back out, right? You're going to get your compass, you're going to get your GPS. And nowadays we have all this cool technology like GPS and whatever. But back in the day, we had to look at the sun.
Here we go.
Here we go. Come on back, Casey. Come on back. Come on
back, Casey.
We had to know when it was midday. You would throw down a lead line and pull it back up.
Azimuth in your pocket. Come on.
Now it's easy. It's just cheating, right? You just get out your little mobile GPS and you go, oh yeah, we're 16 nautical miles off course, no big deal. But it was a lot harder to do that. But you got to look at it logically. You got to come up with a plan to overcome that fear. And you're absolutely right, Doc. Acting on fear or acting on any emotion in a moment, even if it's a passionate emotion, a good, positive emotion, it can have a detrimental effect.
Side effects. What were you about to say, Dr. Jill?
Oh, I just asked if he was still talking about the Coast Guard. But
oh shit!
Hey, roll it back in, Casey. Roll it back in.
Come back.
So one
There
of
he
the
is.
things I
There's the
wanted
honorable.
to add to what Casey said when he was talking about when you lose, when you have a fail, when you made a bad decision and your business paid for it, when you're down, when you're discouraged, when you're sad, and when you're embarrassed, feel like when you get in a bad place because of a failure or a setback or a bad decision, it's something that wasn't under your control. Something wasn't fair. Like the jury made a bad call, but Casey was actually right about everything. Whatever the case may be, when you get stuck on a specific event that didn't go well, if you can step back and look at the big picture and remind yourself of all the successes that you've had along the way, and that you can put that in a perspective where it's no longer how you're seeing yourself in the mirror. It's something that happened that you guys, the AAR, you do an after action review, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go back and look like what happened, what would have been a better decision in that situation that would have had a better outcome. And then you move forward from that. So getting the perspective and not getting stuck on a failure and getting stuck in your emotions, I think, is key for all of us. But in business, sometimes that's hard to do if you're an island. And sometimes in business, you are so focused on the mission that, it can be very isolating when this is your baby and you're putting everything into it. So one of the other things that we've learned from superheroes, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I have a lot of it, but is that when they work together as a team, that they accomplish a lot more. And so if you think about what was it? The Justice League, Superman was part of the Justice League. The Green Lantern was part of the Green Lantern Corps. X-Men, Wolverine was part of the X-Men. So like all these superheroes had a support system. They weren't working independently as an island. And I think in business, no matter how capable we are and how intelligent we are, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And so if you surround yourself with other people that are knowledgeable, you have a support systems, they can help build on your strengths, build that business, and they can also help, fill in some of the gaps of where your weaknesses are or your blind spots that you might not even see.
I love that because we constantly reiterate the fact of being in the right room with the right people. I think you could probably go back to every video and we've probably said it at least once, and we live by it. We hang out with people that are more successful than us, and we want to be on the right seat in the right bus type thing. That's one of the primary objectives of the Rockwall Veterans Business Alliance is to be a support system for, the younger businesses that are coming in. And when I say that, I'm talking about me. I'm only year 3. Casey's been in business for 50 years. Doc's been in business for 10 years. But you hit that right on the head there, because it's more important now than ever with the way business works in general. Long gone are the days of the traditional marketing, right? Social media has now taken that outfit and allowed businesses to just boom, because of that. So if you're a part of the RVBA, you're not, you're just catching this video on the flip, who knows, whatever. Dr. Jill has nailed it on the head there. Find a support system, find people that are better than you that you can learn and grow with. And when you guys get to level 10, find level 20s and I'll go hang out with them. Right, Doc?
I tell you what, when I first started out, I was afraid of team building. I was afraid of releasing control to other people. There was that fear, a part of it, because I always felt that if I didn't do it this way, then my clients wouldn't be satisfied. And so if I hire the wrong team member to help me to grow and they're not doing it the way I need them to do it, then I'm going to end up indeterminately fail.
Or the way you want to do it.
The way that I wanted it. Yeah. And so learning that the hard way, I think stunted my growth. Right. And so over the last few years, began to implement a team-oriented vision versus a me-oriented vision. Right. And so whenever that took place, I saw growth happen at a rapid pace, almost so rapidly it becomes exhausting and I'm losing my damn willpower, Jill. So, but yes, having a strong team, a foundation of people that I can talk to and just kind of bend their ears and vent. That was probably been one of my saving graces, is to be able to contact the numerous amount of people that I know and just say, hey man, can I yell at you for about 10 minutes? And they're like, yeah. And at the end of the day, we end up laughing and joking and realizing it wasn't that big of a deal. And we should have never gotten that upset about it in the first place.
That's a male thing. Women we don't yell at each other and then laugh at the end of the day, but I'm glad it works for you.
What? We won't go into that.
You know what though? I mean, here's one thing that I that's also critical about the Justice League, right? Or the Green Lanterns, his support network with the other Green Lantern enforcement officers around the universe. And, on a fundamental level, on a cosmic level, we are all part of the universe and we are all connected. But you got to find people who you can connect with that, absolutely correct, Dr. Bennett, that will help you see those blind spots, that will help you see around those corners, that will help you stay accountable, not only to support you, but to call you out on your bullshit when you are failing, when you are exhibiting fear, and that fear is leading to stagnation, which anytime you're standing still, you're going backwards, right? You're adrift again. And yes, it's important to have a group of people that are absolutely going to be part of your team and help you see around corners, anticipate problems. Hey, I had an experience with an office manager that this was a problem, and so here's how I have fixed it. Here is a management system that now allows me to manage the system instead of managing individual personnel, et cetera, but also to hold you accountable to the goals and things that you have put out there. Another thing about the Justice League, and that's obviously the more known, the Avengers for that matter. Those superhero teams held each other accountable. They're like, hey, Thor, where's your damn hammer? Get over here. We need, get over here and lightning something, and that's kind of the idea behind that support group. It does more than just helps you anticipate problems or solve problems, but holds you accountable to the skill set you bring to your business.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good knowledge going on here. I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit and give Jill a few minutes to kind of wrap up and kind of close us out, and then I'll do our formal close. But Jill, first and foremost, speaking for the guys here as well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. You have the floor for the next few minutes. By all means, share your thoughts and some things that you'd like to close with.
Well, we're talking about a team and having a support system. But like he said, if you are concerned that your team's not doing it how you want it done, you have to look at, is it accomplishing the ultimate goal or is it not? And in order to be able to use a team or a support system effectively, you have to have some trust. You have to be able to trust them. And when someone's betrayed your trust in the past, that takes time. And so to build trust in someone, in a team, in a person, that's going to take knowing them, seeing them, how they are, who they are consistently over time. And so that's like a team is not an effective team in my mind is not something that develops overnight. And so you want to invest in your team and invest in those relationships, so that they have their back, you can trust them, that they know you're capable. And so that's kind of with the team mentality. If you're a perfectionist or you're a micromanager, you're not allowing your team to be very much help to you.
Yeah. You don't allow your team to grow.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Well, boys, any saved rounds?
Yeah, I was just looking at kind of this paperwork to print out, and one of the biggest things that I noticed that I feel like we should have probably mentioned a little bit is the jealousy aspect of it. Don't worry about that little one back there. The jealousy in a business, like we can become extremely jealous of people that have gotten more success than we have in a shorter amount of time. And I know that was something that I felt, and it wasn't that I was hating on them. It was I was just upset. Is how were they able to do it and I wasn't, right? So I was kind of jealous of like, what did they do that I didn't do? And so being able to wrap our brain around that and understand that it almost drives me to become better when I have that feeling of emotion of being jealous of another business owner or even somebody in my same industry. How do you guys deal with jealousy amongst your competitors?
I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't get jealous. I don't. I use it as a motivating factor. And I know it sounds cliche to say that, but in my industry, in the AV industry, there's a lot of big players out there. And I've worked for a handful or two of them in San Diego. And we're talking like $1 million AV systems. Imagine that, just $1 million check for AV. So when I created Black Level AV, I don't look at jealousy. I look at, okay, what have they done? And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Instead of emulating or imitating, I like to take a look and see, okay, they're doing that. How can I put my spin on it? So don't get me wrong. I mean, being in year 3, there's always that, damn, when's it going to pick up? When can I hire? When can I, all these other questions. But, I like to take a thorough inventory of all of these emotions. And the main point I want to hit today is that find these emotions and use them as your strengths. Don't let them derail you from the path that you're trying to take. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is about, learning who we are as business owners so we can make our business better, and then we can create future leaders within our business. So that's my saving round.
So I'm just going to be real quick. That is a tough one. I'm like all of y'all in a very competitive industry, and it all focuses on the brand that you project.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because you're going to have haters. I mean, Dr. Bennett is not the only mental health care provider in town. And there are some, in some back chat room somewhere, there is somebody who is in competition with her, and they probably don't like her and said some unkind things about her. And I know that I have the same thing. And something that I heard kind of early in this process that made me, and I think it really helped me get my shit together with how I'm dealing with this, but I don't have to compete with anybody but the person I was yesterday. I need to be better than that motherfucker. Sorry for the language, but y'all know I'm a sailor. So I have to be better than the man I was yesterday. And I don't hit that mark very often, but that's the goal. And if that's what you're focused on, is just improving you, being better in every way than you were 24 hours ago, then I think that diminishes some of those jealous emotions that can chink away at your mental armor as to whether or not so-and-so is trying to compete with you or talking about how you're competing with them, things like that.
I'll tell you one thing.
Better than yesterday.
If people are hating on you, you might be doing something right. That's how
right.
That's how I look at it. Straight up. No bullshit. So,
hey, quick question, Jill. Hey, so you are in the mental health industry. You obviously have a compassion for helping others. If anybody's out there watching, or if anybody sees us in the future, how can we get a hold of you to be able to pass people to your way that's actually needing some of your services?
absolutely.
Because we all know mental health is huge, especially right now with people staying home, not being able in this routine, not being able to have that self-care that we usually are, that we took advantage of. So what do we need to do to be able to get in front of you to be able to talk us through some of these emotions if we need to?
Well, first you need to contact my office manager, Jenna. If you Google Atwater's Edge Counseling in Rockwall, will come up. And if you Google Dr. Jill Bennett, will come up. But I can give you a phone number real quick if you want it.
Shoot it. Yeah.
Okay. So our office number is 469-264-7245.
Got it.
Okay. And our email is atwatersedge@hotmail.com.
At Hotmail.
Yes.
All right. I'm throwing this in the chat here so people can see it.
Okay.
With that being said, thank you so much for spending the time with us this evening. We appreciate your input because honestly, we talk to each other all day, and these knuckleheads that watch us see us all the time. So I loved your spin on our kind of agenda this evening, and I'm very happy for a lot of the things that you brought up, even that I can implement in my own business. So, we do this every Thursday, guys, 6 o'clock on Thursdays. We call them $1,000 Thursdays. We might have to coin that phrase, Doc. I'm saying, man. But appreciate you guys joining us. As you all know, the Rockwall Veterans Business Alliance mission is to promote veteran and patriot business success. So if you're a veteran or you're a patriot, you want to get involved or become a member of the RVBA, reach out to one of us, shoot us a Facebook message, or call the chamber and speak to Darby or Anderson over there. They can get you linked up with one of us. Again, thank you guys all. This is phenomenal. I think this is, I'm going to go ahead and put this on record and say this is probably one of our better Facebook Lives. So thank you so much, Dr. Bennett.
Thanks, Doc.
It was an honor to be here with you guys.
All right, guys.
We'll see you all soon.
Y'all have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.